Coming up on this episode of Poker Jesus.
Well, fuck these overly aggressive fucks. You guys want a raise? I'll show you a fucking raise. I repot to $800. Welcome to vlog number 14. We did it. We have hit over 500 subscribers. I know it's small in the grand scheme of things, but for me it's huge. It's crazy to think that there's over 500 people who have subscribed to my channel, who keep coming back, who enjoy my content. It's really motivating each week to see those numbers rise and to see the viewership. It's just really great. So I really appreciate everyone tuning in, and I can't wait till we hit 1,000 and maybe one day 100,000 like some of the other big vloggers out there. I want to mention a few viewers who commented on my last vlog. 300 Pound Canary had asked if you're ever playing longer in a session just because the players are so bad that you stick around longer than you expected, but that you can't really get anything going, you're not getting any hands. And definitely that happens a lot more than you'd think. You have to stay disciplined. I know in the past I have played some really shitty jacks, and it costs you money. And so you have to stay disciplined. You're sitting there for hours and hours just folding and folding. The hands you do play, you miss, and you're watching other people out there playing just terrible hands and winning massive pots. And it can be frustrating and it can be disheartening. And we have a Ruffian sighting. Hello, Ruffian. It looks like his little diabetic dogs on the floor. Dogs on the floor. Dogs on the floor. Sensor is showing up there, so that's pretty cool. My buddy here is almost in remission, the vet thinks. So we've been able to lower him from 4 units of insulin down to 1. So hopefully, with some luck, we can get him into remission, get him off the insulin, and just maintain his diet and his exercise. So that is coming along as well. Blurry CT Folds had asked if there were any PLO courses I recommend. You know, I tried watching some of Jay Nandez's material, and it just puts me to fucking sleep. I'm sure he's very skilled, but I just can't get into it. And I think a lot of his stuff is more geared towards multi-tabling 6 max games online. I tend to be more of a full ring player myself, so I like a full table, 8, 9, 10 players. So it's not really something that's relevant as much for my chosen playstyle anyway. I'm a big disciple of Huang. Jeff Huang has a great book on PLO, and it really helps you to build a solid foundation and understanding of the hands, the equities, the rankings, what you should be playing from different positions. It's probably tighter than most people want to continue playing throughout, but it really will give you a solid foundation to start playing PLO and understand the differences between it and Hold'em. Also, Wayne over at Donkfish Poker has recently started up a Discord channel. He's brought myself and Zephyr Poker on board, so we discuss strategy and hands and different things like that. People can post hands and we'll answer. I'm not as active on that just yet because I'm still involved in prepping the house for sale here in Tampa, and then we have to, plan for our move. But, I do try to be as active as I can be on the channel, so I'll leave a link to that down below if you want to check it out. And this episode, we have some hero call spots. We have a 10-20 hand where we have a shot at tripling up. So there's some exciting ones in this one that I can't wait for you guys to see. And let's jump right into it. 8-handed, playing 5-10. There's one limper to us in middle position, and we look down at Ace-King 10-3, suited in spades to our ace. This hand has high card strength, a nut suit, and connectedness. The 3 is a bit weak as it requires a very specific flop with the ace to be useful, and our blocking the second nut spade draw also limits our profit potential with this holding. However, it's still certainly playable, and we come along. The aggressive player on the button, sitting on almost $8,000, raises to $55, and the button, small blind, and limper all call, and we do as well. We go 5 ways to a flop of 10-5-4 with 2 spades and 1 diamond, with top pair, top kicker, the wheel draw, and the nut flush draw. When it checks to us, we waste no time in betting the full pot of $285. It's doubtful the preflop raiser is going to bet this flop that hit us so hard into a multi-way field, so we opt to take the lead and bet our own hand. They all fold, and we take this one down. This hand is going to be a little different. This is a hand I actually fold, but I want to show you just how bad some of these players are and why PLO can be so profitable. We're under the gun holding ace 10, 6-5 suited in diamonds to our 10. I wouldn't play this hand from the button. I certainly won't play it from under the gun. And we lay it down. A player in middle position and in the cutoff call, the small blind completes, and then the big blind on a stack of almost $3,900 raises it up to 50. I'm generally not a fan of raising pre-flop deep stacked out of position. Playing at a positional disadvantage in PLO really sucks. But this guy does it, and he's not done being a moron. All three opponents call, and they go four ways to a flop of 9-7-4 with 2 hearts and 1 club. The small blind checks, and the big blind bets out for the full pot of $200. This makes very little sense. This type of board is rarely going to hit the preflop raiser's range very hard, unless you're making these raises with suited middle rundowns as well. So the only hand that might make sense for him to be leading with here is a suited rundown that smashed this board, or aces with a nut flush draw and or some side cards that give him straight outs. 2 players fold, but the small blind makes the call. The turn is the queen of hearts. The small blind checks, and the big blind once again bets the full pot of $600. The small blind now check raises to $2,400, leaving himself less than $600 behind. For some reason, the big blind just calls the bet, creating a pot of $5,400 when his opponent has under $600 left to play for. The river pairs the queen, the small blind shoves all in, the big blind snap calls, and we get to see their hands. The small blind reveals the Jack 10 8-5 suited in hearts to his 10. So he limped with that, which is semi-reasonable as his hand is okay to see a flop cheaply with. Although you need to hit a really specific flop or this type of hand can get you into trouble. Then he called a pre-flop raise with it, which I feel is a bigger error here. Now let's look at the big blind. He's got king, king, queen 8 suited in clubs to his king. His hand is certainly playable, but the 8 really drags him down. It doesn't connect with the other cards in any meaningful way. I would be looking to check this multi-way from the blinds rather than bloat the pot deep stacked out of position. But that's not the worst of it. The flop of 9-7-4 with 2 hearts is absolutely terrible for him. All he has is an overpair and the second nut flush blocker. This is just a terrible hand on the flop, and multi-way he should be looking to not put any additional money in the pot. Yet he bets the full pot on the flop. Now his opponent in the small blind just calls. I'm not a big fan of that either. On the flop, the small blind has a nice wrap straight draw. He can hit a jack, 10, 8, or 6 to make the straight, and he has a flush draw, albeit a fairly weak one. Still, I'd like to see a check raise on this board against a pre-flop aggressor. Now on the turn, the flush comes in, the small blind checks, the big blind bets the full pot again, and his ass gets check raised to $2,400. At this point, there's no fold equity. You only have an overpair, and if your opponent has the flush, you can't win, and your opponent's bet is saying they have the flush. Still, this guy puts the money in, then binks 3 of a kind on the river, which doesn't do him any good, and calls off the rest, doubling his opponent up. It's likely the big blind comes from a Hold'em background, as Hold'em players new to PLO tend to overvalue overpairs, and may mistakenly believe that they can make a flush if there are 4 of a suit on the board, and they hold 1 of the suit in their hands. That's really the only possible reasoning I can come up with that makes any real sense.
And now a word from our sponsor.
Hey, paisans, you don't want to sleep with the fishes. You want to play with the fishes. So come on down to Vinny Secretary Cizzarati. Vinny S's House of the Cards. Roll some dice every deal exchange with your fellow legitimate businessmen. Concerned about privacy? Don't worry about it. We check everyone for wires at entry. And here's an offer you can't refuse. Enjoy our free all-you-can-eat meatball sub-buffet. Just like Mama S used to make. Manja. And the dames, forget about it. Vinny S's House of the Cards is conveniently located at 1284 Horsehead Circle. Just take the alleyway between Marco's Appliance Repair and Al Dente's Pizzeria. If you reach the dumpster, you've gone too far.
7-handed and under the gun, sitting on over 10,000 limps in, we're next to act with Ace-King 8-5 suited in clubs to our ace. It's a playable hand, but just marginally. I'd like this hand a lot better in late position. We'll be hard-pressed to stand a lot of heat if this gets raised a significant amount after we limp in. But we take our chances and put the $10 in. The cutoff also comes along, and now the button makes it 65. Both blinds fold, and the first limper makes the call. We can withstand one raise here, and we come along, as does the cutoff. We go 4 ways to a 10-7-6 2-heart 1 spade flop. It's checked around. The ace of hearts hits the turn, And now we're really done with this hand. It checks around again. Now the 9 of clubs hits the river, giving us the second nut straight on a board where a flush is possible. When it's checked to us, there's little reason to bet. No one has shown any interest in the pot, so it's unlikely there's a flush out there. Or if there is, it's not very strong and doesn't feel like betting. We can't bet and represent anything particularly strong, so an observant opponent might raise us with just a high flush blocker to take us off our showdown equity. We all check to the button, the original raiser, who now fires out $275. It folds to us, and guys, I just don't buy it. He raises pre-flop, doesn't bet the flop, doesn't bet the turn, but now makes a full pot-sized bet into a field of players who have checked the whole way and don't look like they'll call $5, let alone $275. Color me a non-believer. I put on my cape. And I make the hero call, and I found out I've been duped. The villain reveals the King, Queen, Jack 10 with the Queen High Hearts. Egad, this guy just played me like a fiddle, and I hit the perfect river card to fall for it.
You're right, Teddy. The ace didn't help me. I flopped the nut straight.
Motherfucker! You fool your nut! Motherfucker! That is it!
That's it. What the fuck you talking about? That's it. Take him down, Daddy.
Yeah. No more. No, not tonight. This son of bitch all night, he chick. He trapped me.
He beats me. Straight up. Pay him. Pay that man his money.
We're five-handed playing 10-20. Yes, you heard that right, 10-20. The under-the-gun player, who is also the hijack, is sitting on a stack of $20,000, and he raises to $70. The button, sitting on a little more than $2,000, makes it $240. We're in the big blind using the Rolf slot boom strategy of buying in short stack when facing deep stacked, aggressive opponents, and we look down at the ace, queen, jack 7, suited in spades to our ace. Well, fuck these overly aggressive fucks. You guys want a raise? I'll show you a fucking raise. I repot to $800. While I prefer to have a second suit here and have my 7 more connected with the other cards, on a short stack against a bunch of aggro maniacs, I'm fine taking a stand here. The guy with 20 grand just calls the $800, which makes little sense given the button only has around 2,200 total. Are you ever really folding if he goes over the top? Well, the button calls as well, so now there's over $2,400 in the pot, and with only 200 behind, it's unlikely we're folding many flops. The flop comes the beautiful 7-5 deuce with 2 clubs and 1 heart. Well, it's not the flop we were looking for, but with top pair, top kicker, and the pot laying us 12-1, we get the rest of our chips in. Daddy Warbucks raises to 3,010, and the button folds. Daddy Warbucks shows down the 10-9-8-7 suited in hearts to the 9. Surprisingly, we're essentially a dead-even coin flip. He has some straight outs that will leave us drawing dead, and backdoor hearts, plus all of his 2-pair cards are live. So while we both have top pair, and we do have him out-kicked, we aren't out of the woods yet. The turn is the 2 of spades, the river the queen of clubs, and we manage to win the coin flip and triple up. Thank you, Poker Jesus. We're five-handed at 5-10 and under the gun with King, 10-8, holding 3 clubs. We're up against a bunch of short stacks all sitting on 600. We bought in for the max of 3,000 and the game is just a few hands in. We raise it up to $35. The cutoff calls and now the small blind, like a fucking dick, min raises to $60. Fuck you and your min raise, bro, I shout as I repot to $225. God, I hope he's not setting me up. He just calls my re-raise, leaving himself less than a pot-sized bet behind. The flop is Jack 8-8 Rainbow. He checks it over to us. Oh God, I hope he has aces this one time. I bet the full pot. But he folds and we take it down. Still five-handed, playing 5-10. The cutoff makes it $30 and the button calls. In the small blind, we look down at the ace 10-8-3 with 3 clubs to our ace. It's not a great hand, especially out of position, but I think it's strong enough to withstand 1 raise, and we make the call and go 3 ways to a flop of King, Jack, 7 with 2 clubs. We set the trap and check it over. The original raiser bets the full pot of $100 and the button calls. We could check raise here, but there is a possibility the original raiser could have hit top 2 pair or even a set. While we have the straight flush draw, we do block one of our flush outs. He's pretty deep stacked, so there's no reason to get nuts just yet. We make the call. The 2 of hearts on the turn is 0 help, and once again we check. Now he bets $266, a pretty weird number, but given we're still fairly deep stacked and we have a number of outs, we make the call. The river is the 4 of clubs. You could donk lead the scare card here, but we opt to check it over and hope our opponent will stay aggressive and do our betting for us. Holy shit, he doesn't disappoint, betting $621 into the $932 pot. He only has $1,644 behind, so if we min raise, it just seems kind of silly. If we're lucky, he'll have the queen high flush and not be willing to let it go, so we let her rip, repotting to $27.95, but our opponent does lay it down. It folds to us on the button, and we look down at the ace, jack, 10-3 suited in spades to our ace. On the button, short-handed against just the blinds, this is definitely a raising spot, and we make it 35. Only the big blind comes along. The flop is king 9-8 with 2 diamonds and 1 club. He checks it over to us, and we have a diamond blocker. We are open-ended on our straight draw. Heads up short-handed, we can bet here, as this flop has a decent chance of hitting our range reasonably well, but for some strange reason I opt to check it back. The turn is the 9 of hearts, and now our opponent bets 50 into the $75 pot. I'm not quite convinced he's being honest here, and with position I opt to make the call and float to the river. We make the call, and the river is good and bad, falling the queen of diamonds. We've made our nut straight, but it's on a board with a flush and full house possible. Our opponent bets the full pot of $175 now. Well, we didn't believe him on the turn, so we're putting our hero cape back on and hoping to not run into kryptonite again. We make the call, and he shows down the ace queen 8-4 with the naked ace of diamonds. So we wind up letting this guy bluff off half his chips, and we take down another pot.
I've tallied all the judges' points. You got 1 for being the more colorful surfer. Batman got all the rest, including 50 for avoiding a dangerous hazard, a shark.
Oh, big deal.
A simple deal. Thanks to the shark-repellent bat spray in my utility belt.
Well, what about my tricks and my technique?
You mean my tricks and my technique, all transferred to you by that nutty surfing experience and ability transferometer.
Thanks so much for watching. As always, leave any comments or questions down below. I do try to respond to everyone, and I also like to take some comments or questions and answer them in the upcoming vlogs. So there's a possibility that if you leave a comment, you might hear your name in the next episode. And we will see you in the next episode.
And now a word from Vanessa K. Polk, semi-unretired heads-up legal expert.
You know, after watching a video like this, sometimes I'll like it, sometimes I'll leave a comment, and sometimes I'll subscribe. Sometimes I'll even do all 3.